This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I am Teresa Velardi, and I am doing something different today. I am going to fly solo, and I have a lot of information to share with you. A whole bunch of things to talk about relative to publishing, relative to pottery, who I am, and really a little bit more about me that we don't get to talk about because we're always talking about my guests. And so I want to give you some information, and I'm hoping that we spend a really, hopefully interactive time of conversation today. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that we are live on the first and third Tuesday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern, but you can listen to Conversations That Make a Difference. It's played Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, outside of the live call-in shows. And you can listen on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network online, on your mobile, in the car, on YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7. Now, if you're watching on YouTube and you have questions during this, you can just put them in the chat and they will come to me via my phone, and I'll be happy to answer them. And you can go there by going to dreamvision7radio.com and click on the YouTube button, and you'll see the live feed there. Or you can go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com and click the button that says, listen to the live show. So they'll both take you to the same place. And as you know, I like to start with a prayer. So I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer to get us started. Conversations That Make a Difference is not just my way of getting information out to you, but sharing a whole bunch of things, including my faith. So let's say the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I also want to say that it is, in fact, by God's grace, that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness with passion and purpose, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. So let me just tell you a little bit more about me that you might not know. I started Conversations That Make a Difference 3 years ago. And before I decided to become part of the Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, I also was a publisher. So a lot of people who know me as the founder and CEO of Authentic Endeavors Publishing, which we are a hybrid publishing company. And I'm going to go over in this conversation the difference between a hybrid publishing company, a traditional publishing company, and what it means to be self-published. I launched my business in about 2010, so I have a lot of years of experience, and I've published hundreds of books. I am dedicated to helping authors to bring your stories to life. I've been an editor. I'm an author myself. I am an advocate, passionate advocate for storytelling, and I use my God-given talents to help you through the transformation process of seeing your story begin in your mind and come to life on the pages of a book. Authentic Endeavors came back in, my goodness, the story is pretty interesting. I was helping somebody else publish a book. I was doing project management for them. And I was with a friend of mine who's also a speaker and said, Teresa, why don't you have your own publishing company? And so that opened the door for a conversation that led to the first compilation book that I published under Authentic Endeavors Publishing. And that took place in 2015, I guess. That was the initial ride was exciting, and it gets more and more exciting with every conversation that I have with authors who are getting published. And so if you're somebody who wants to fulfill a lifelong goal of becoming a published author, or you just want to dip your toe into the process of writing or being part of a compilation book, we have something for you here at Authentic Endeavors Publishing. So that's a little bit more about me. And something that people don't know about me is I'm a potter. I make pottery from clay to works of art. And a while back, I put together a book, and this is just to give you a sample to show you. These are my hands. This is my pottery. I put together a book called Become Who You're Created to Be. And this is a journal, actually, for people. And there's a lot of information in there. But I just wanted to show you the picture of the pottery as clay, because we're going to use that as an illustration today for compiling a book, or actually using it for really anything in your life. This formula that I'm going to give you is adaptable to anything, any kind of transformation. So my question to you is, are you struggling on how to bring your story to life? And whether you're just beginning or working on a collaboration, or you have an outline or a manuscript that you might want to bring to the world and you feel stuck, I can help you. And hopefully this conversation is going to help you. So let's get started with a couple of things that I want to say here. Pottery, I'm going to use that as an illustration so that you can apply it to your book as well. So pottery has a bunch of steps. And the first thing that doing anything, we have to prepare. So the process of getting the clay ready for the potter's wheel, it's a lot of pushing and pulling and getting the air out of the clay, and really, just deciding that this is what you want to do. And you have to just, get ready for it. So when it comes time to apply this to writing a book, there's a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. What do I want to write about? Is there something that's spinning in my head that's been there for a long time, that's just begging to get out into the world and you don't know where to start? This is all part of preparation. Just some of the things that I would suggest people do in order to be able to figure this out, and whether or not you're going to write your book in the first place, is, if you've never heard of it, I'm going to tell you what a brain dump is right now. Everything that comes into your mind, either speak it into your phone and record it, because you can probably get it out of yourself faster if you talk it than if you write it. And the Notes app on your phone is, if you have one, if you have any phone has a Notes app or some sort of an app where you can speak in, and it will transcribe it for you, so that you can see it and see whatever points you want to make about whether or not this is for you, based on what information is in your head now comes to life on the page almost instantaneously when you speak it out. Or you can type it, or you can write it out. I'm an advocate for writing things out. I believe that there's a connection between the head and the heart, and it comes through the hand and the process of writing. That's why journaling is so important. And so if you are a journaler and you see the same thing coming up in your journal, maybe you have a lot more to say about that than you thought about when you sat down to write the initial entry in your journal. So that's one way that you can prepare to write a book, or consider whether or not a book might be for you. The second step in making pottery is to center. And you got to put the clay in the middle of the wheel in order to be able to get anything that's going to look like it's got any kind of structure to it. If the clay is wobbly, the piece is going to be wobbly. So we need to center. And all centering is really focusing on what it is that might be your topic, your keywords. Maybe you have chapters that you might want to talk about. So a topic, chapter titles that take your big topic and break it down into little pieces. Kind of like what I'm doing here with you today. Break it down into a process, into pieces. I have a habit of sticky notes, and of course, I don't have any in front of me, but a long time ago, someone told me that if you take sticky notes or 3x5 cards and you write these ideas on those pieces of paper or little cards, and you set them up on a table, maybe on like a cork board where you can pin them to there, or even take your sticky notes and stick them on a whiteboard. It starts to bring things to life for you, and it also gives you a way to organize your thoughts, so that you can start with what your message is and what order you want to release the information in. Now, if for those of you who write children's books, this is the same thing for you. If you have an idea of what you want the book to look like, maybe you have two things to work on. You have your content, and then you have what is the visual that you want to give to the children based on the content you're creating. And so all of this is going to come together a lot more easily than if you just write it out and then, wonder what exactly. The good thing about children's books and writing them is that normally when you're writing a children's book, you're writing it because you see it in your head. So you get the advantage of having the duality. Pictures, words paint pictures, and they're powerful. And if you have a specific picture you have in mind for your book, your children's book, whether it's your children's book or whether it's the cover of a book, or maybe you have some drawings that you might want to have on the inside of your memoirs or whatever it is that you're writing about, those things are really important. And you can put them on these 3x5 cards or sticky notes so that you can start developing your story and your topic. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have prepared by doing like what I call the brain dump. And then you have to get centered and focused on what it is you're going to write about. What's next? In pottery, after you center the clay, you get to mold and shape the clay. Do you want it to be a bowl, wide open? Do you want it to be a vase, like I showed you, tall, so that you have the ability to mold and shape the clay just the same way that you have the ability to mold and shape your words? What do you anticipate you might want the final book to look like? Do you have a title? Have you developed that yet? And if you haven't, don't worry about it, because sometimes the title reveals itself as you write the story. So, just having an idea maybe of your cover design, or talking about the children's books, what the illustrations might look like, create the order of the chapters using those 3x5 cards or the sticky notes. That's all part of the molding and shaping process. And it doesn't have to stay the same. That's the beauty of the whole thing. Example, pottery. There are many times when I have thought that I was going to be making a vase, and all of a sudden I decided, nah, I want this to be a bowl. Well, just by the touch of my hands on the clay a certain way, I can change the look of what's before me from a vase to a bowl. It's not easiest to go back the other way around. If you start with a bowl, it's a little bit more difficult to make a vase, but when you are working, you have the ability and the right and the creativity to change exactly what it is you're talking about, or segue into another topic simply by moving things around, changing, where you have those 3x5s or those sticky notes, and seeing what the picture looks like, the visual picture of your book with the chapters in a certain way, or maybe a different way. What happens after that? So let's recap. You prepare, you centered, you focused, you got an idea, and now you know what you want to write about. You start putting these things together. Molding and shaping, you decide how you want to present your story. And for those of you who are writing an actual autobiography or a memoir, something that has a timeline to it, this is a good place for you to be able to create that timeline. And then after you get those three steps together, the next thing for pottery is called drying time. You have to take the pot off the wheel, the finished pot, as clay, still clay, soft and cannot, it can fall apart if you bump it into something or whatever. But there's drying time, and that helps to cure the clay a bit in order for it to become ready for the next step, which we'll go into in a minute. But during your drying time or the downtime, this is the time for you to walk away from what it is that you put there and just ponder any new thoughts and ideas that you might have. Did you get everything down on those pages, that the notes, the note cards that you wanted to? Did you leave something out? Make a note of it. And then when it's time to come back to it, you can reorganize or add something that's going to be part of the story. Remember, we're just taking notes. We're just putting things together now. That's part of how the story is going to be put together. And sometimes it's just a line or how you say it on that card or that note that is going to be something that's going to spark an entire conversation or flood of information that will come forth because of the notes that you prepared on those note cards or sticky notes. It's an interesting process to watch your story come to life. Not everybody writes like this. Some people just sit down and they just write. For those of you who are getting started and this looks like a big project, and how are you going to fill the pages of a book, or how are you going to get your story out there, in a way that it is people can follow the story. This is very helpful to me, and it's helpful to a lot of people that I have spoken with over the years on how to create their story. Do I always use pottery as the illustration? No, but this gives me a track to run on. If it works for one thing, it's going to work for another thing. And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything. And this is a way for you to take how you do something, whether it's your own process of whatever you do, whatever you work with, or how you bring ideas to fruition. It doesn't really matter. This is just the way that I can give you in relationship to two things I love, making pottery and writing, in order to be able to help you to come forth with a story. Now, before we get on to the next thing, I will tell you that it doesn't necessarily have to be an entire book. Oh my goodness, Teresa, this is overwhelming. You're asking me to do so much. You're asking me to get whatever's in my head out onto a page just feels daunting to me. Well, nobody's pressing you. Nobody is telling you that it has to be done within a certain time frame. You work at your own pace and you bring forth whatever it is that you want to share with the world with joy and with creativity and purpose. Because if this is something that you want to do, it's not going to go away until you do it. And it's going to be in your head and wanting to come out. And this is just ways to do it in bits and pieces. You build a brick wall, one brick at a time, put the things together. And sometimes one shifts and you have to fix it. You have to put it in order for the wall to stand firm and tall and straight, because I don't know. If I were building a wall, I don't have a mason's skill. If I were building a wall, it might look like this. And the Great Wall of China looks like that, but it's a beautiful thing in the world. The artists who put that together, the craftsmen that put that together, did it with purpose. It was meant to be that way. If it's not meant to be that way, you get the opportunity to change it so that it comes to life the way that you want it. All right, so now drying time, stepping away from your work and pondering any new thoughts that you might have. And then the next step in making pottery is you trim away the excess. So I'm going to use this as an illustration here. At the bottom here, this is still on the wheel, right? So I have to get that off of there. I'm going to take it off and put it on a shelf because then it has to dry. So when it was, I trimmed away whatever I could on the wheel. Now I've taken it off. It's been on the shelf, drying a little bit. I have to turn it upside down, and I have to take away any excess that's at the bottom. Or if there's any heaviness in the body of the piece, I get the chance to trim that away as excess. How does this apply to writing? Well, you've spent some time creating your storyline, if you will, and you've spent some time, you've walked away from it, and you're pondering new thoughts. Now you get to reread whatever it is that you've put together and delete stuff. You can trim things away. You can rewrite. You can do whatever it is that you need to do in order to be able to make the story flow in such a way that it's going to keep you interested more than anything, and it's going to also speak to the reader. Whatever your message is, it's got to speak to the reader. You may be writing for yourself, but you're also writing for the reader of the book as well, because the goal is to help make an impact on somebody else. Just like Conversations That Make a Difference, here we do our best in order to bring conversations that are going to impact the listeners. And it seems to be doing a pretty good job from what Deborah tells me, the owner of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. We're reaching a lot of people. And my hope for today is that if you're one of those people who has a story that you want to tell and you don't know how to get it into the world, this might help you to do that. And I might be able to help you to do that. So we're going to take a break in a second. And when we come back, we're going to go through putting this all together into what would be a manuscript, and then where you go from there. So we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you on the other side. We're talking about putting together your story using pottery as an illustration for the transformation from your mind to the pages of a book. We'll be right back.
One of the many people who said, "Someday I'll write a book," but don't know how to get started? Many wannabe authors have begun with the same question and are now published by Authentic Endeavors Publishing, a multi-imprint hybrid publishing company. Whether you're writing an autobiography, a memoir, a kingdom book, a children's book, a business book, or an anthology, we have a place for you. Visit www.AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com for more information or to set up a 20-minute consultation. Your title of published author is within reach.
Born Able exists to highlight and normalize the humanity, worth, and abilities of infants and children born with complex medical conditions. We write, illustrate, and publish books for these children and have featured over 1,000 children throughout the world. Our videos and posts have been viewed over 100 million times on social media as we strive to showcase these amazingly abled kids and fight relentlessly for equal medical care, regardless of diagnosis. All proceeds from Born Able books go directly to the Born Able Foundation. To nominate a special kid to be featured in a Born Able book, go to www.bornable.org to learn more.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. I'm Teresa Velardi, and we're talking about creating your story for publication using pottery as an illustration. And before we went to break, we talked about how we trim away the excess and reread, maybe delete, rewrite any notes that we might have. And then we put together the story, start filling in the blanks for people. You may have a timeline that you're working with. So take the reader from one place on the timeline to the next place on the timeline to keep the story flowing as you go along. But let's talk again about the next step in pottery. First, let's go through them again. I'm gonna do this so that consistency is key in this whole thing as well. So if you're committed to something and want transformation of any kind, I know that consistency is the key to making things happen. So if you're a writer, write every day. If you are a journaler who is a writer also, make sure you do that every day. I'm an advocate for gratitude, journaling for gratitude. Write down at least 3 things that you're grateful for every day. And along the line, I also had a whole bunch of people decide that they wanted to talk about gratitude as well. And we put that together into a compilation book called A Daily Gift of Gratitude. And then there's A Daily Gift of Hope, and we'll talk about them later on. But you can put a little story into a book, or you can make your entire book using this whole thing, regardless of how big or how small your contribution might be to the world in terms of being written down and inside a book. So you prepared, you centered, and you got focused. You molded and you shaped what you want your book to look like, your storyline to look like. You've taken a step back, allowed yourself to consider, did I leave anything else? Did I leave anything out? Do I want to say anything else? You've walked away and given it some drying time. Now you trimmed everything, and now you're back again. What's next? More drying time for the pottery. It has to be completely dry before it goes into the kiln. Yes, there is fire involved here, and the firing is going to make the pot strong. So the drying time, I would suggest that once you get your notes together and your manuscript written, I would give it to a few people that you trust, at least one other person that you trust, who can give you their opinion and their experience of having read what you wrote and how it affected them. Are you getting the results that you wanted as the author from the reader who is being impacted by your words? And is there anything that they think that you might have left out, or that you might want to change? Or maybe it's somebody that you grew up with and they know your life, and maybe you left out something that happened that was really important that caused your life to take a different turn or whatever. But by putting another pair of eyes on it before you submit your manuscript to a publishing company, make sure that it is what you want to say in the order that you want to say it, with the heart of who you are, engaged in everything that you've written. Some people don't write memoirs, they don't write stories about themselves, they don't write transformational, they write fiction. I can't imagine somebody like Stephen King using a story as a transformational type book. And that's not all that we do at Authentic Endeavors Publishing. We have a bunch of imprints that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But what the biggest thing is that I want to give you an easy way for you to put together your story so that you can achieve your goal of becoming a published author. So you've given your manuscript now to a friend, it's come back to you, you've done some rewriting, and now you're ready to step into the fire. No, I'm not saying burn your manuscript. I'm not. The firing process in pottery actually takes out all the impurities in the clay. And what are impurities in writing? Okay, there are a few of them that a lot of people have difficulty with, and they are punctuation, proper punctuation, grammar, writing in the same tense all along. If you're telling a story from first person, it needs to be saying in first person. If you are describing something that is from the past. There's a way for you to present that. And all of these things are fleshed out in a process that's called editing. And what you will experience in the editing process with my company, we do our very best to make sure that we keep your voice alive and active from the first word of the book to the closing word of the book. So an editing process will do that for you, yeah, and will correct any misspellings, any punctuation issues, any grammatical issues. And it's really a purification process. And that's where the pottery comes into purification. Now, make no mistake, there are some times when the pots go into the kiln and something happens. Maybe I didn't take the step beforehand, compressing the clay properly, making sure that I had no bubbles in the clay when I prepared the clay. Is there something in there that's going to cause damage to my pot when it goes into the kiln for the firing process? And firing strengthens the clay, but it will also kick out things that are impure, if you will, that will create maybe the pot, a piece blows out of the rim, or a piece blows out of the side, or maybe there's a big air bubble in there that nobody realized was there before we put it into the kiln. And the next thing you know, it's not only blowing up, but it's taken out everything around it. So, and how does this apply to writing? Let's just say in that annihilation of everything that's on the shelf, let's say that there's a chapter in the middle, or some portion of your writing in the middle that either doesn't make any sense and needs to be moved, or maybe just needs to be taken out completely. Because let's face it, everything that we write is not necessarily what belongs in a certain place in the book, or even whether it belongs in the book in the first place. So the firing process in pottery takes all of the impurities out and will identify any damages that were not any things that were not done along the way in order to get into the kiln, and damage could occur. So firing process, the first firing process, yeah, you're going to go in the fire twice. Don't let anybody kid you. There's a process here, and it's relative to your writing the same way that it's relative to pottery. When you come out of the kiln, now we have to assess what we have as a purified, if you will, piece of work. Let's see how I can say this. Sometimes you just got to ditch it and start over again. That's the grim reality. And sometimes maybe, your person who you trusted with what you had written said, I don't get it. Or maybe they'll give some ideas, and you've rewritten, and still it's not what you want. Well, guess what? The good thing about writing is there's always an eraser at the end of the pencil, or there's always a backspace in Word, or you can take out whatever you need to take out and start again. But once you have what you want as a manuscript, now you get to put the final touches on it. Now, what do you think the title is of this book? And this is what in pottery we call the glazing process. And this is kind of like a blank canvas for a painter who can create a beautiful picture with nothing, just paintbrush, paint, and the canvas. And basically you're doing, as a writer, as an author, you're doing the same thing. You're painting a picture for the reader. And in pottery, what I do is I decide, what color do I want this? And this is your canvas. Your book is your canvas. What color do you see the cover? Do you have a picture for the cover? Do you have a particular thing that's important to you? This book here, this cover, I grew up on Long Island. I grew up on the beach, and a friend of mine takes the pictures of the sunset every night on the beach. And this is one of his photographs. And I decided that I wanted to bring a part of my growing up and so much I'm grateful for during that time in my life as cover of the book. Then there's also, like for a children's book, Alina the Super Bee, the super saver little bee there, she is the main character. So she was the appropriate cover for the book. So in the glazing process of pottery, you decide what color you want it. In the process for your books, you're deciding on final touches. Is the content complete? Do I have an idea for the cover? This book here, White Heron, A Creation Story by Amy Olmedo. By the way, this is will be in the Dream Vision 7 radio newsletter, and is the book of the month, Books We Love, for the month of March. And Amy will be with us sometime in May to talk about that. But my whole point here is you get to see the final picture in your mind and then hope that it's going to come to fruition, as you continue to do your writing and continue to work with someone like me, who's part of a publishing company, and help to get you what you want it to look like out into the world. So that's what we call the glazing process, but you're not done yet. Got to go back into the fire. Excuse me. All of these things come together in what I call the beautification fire. And this entails the final cover, creating the, and I'll say this one here, Unsheltered. This was also one of the books of the month on the website. And this is stories about people who are unsheltered in the country. This is really important to the authors of this book. This is a photograph that became part of the cover, and on the back is information about the story. So as we're talking about the beautification process, how do you want this to look? What do you want to say on the back of the book? And we help you with that. And then how do you want the interior to look? Do you want to have, how is it going to be best presented? And we help you with all of that. Do you want to have illustrations in there, of course, like a children's book, or do you have pictures that you want to share in these stories of, whether it's a compilation or maybe a memoir with pictures from your growing up years or whatever. We help you to put it all together and do all the modifications for you that you want to see happen for your book to come to life before it actually goes out into the world. And then once you come out of the beautification process, you have your finished product. And what do you do with it next? Well, if it was a piece of pottery, I would tell you it's off to the gallery with you. Go show off. And then with a book, I would say it's off to Amazon and off to the bookshelves like those behind me. Go show off. You worked really hard, and you deserve to be out there in the world and share your story. So let's recap before we go on to the next thing, because I know you have a lot of questions. How does this happen? Okay, you've given me everything that I need to create the book, but how do I get it published? And how do I know I got the right publisher? So real quick, get your thoughts together. Make sure that you're focused on what you're writing. Mold and shape it the way that you want it to be said. Make sure that you take time out to look at what you've written, trim away anything that doesn't work, add what you might think might have to be part of it. Allow yourself some time to share it with someone else, at least one other person. Get it edited, and we do all of this. We're full service. Edit it and purify the story in terms of making sure it's exactly what you want to say. Figure out what you want it to look like in the end. And then we get everything put together for you. Your cover will look beautiful. Your interior will be properly formatted, beautifully formatted. And then there'll be information on the back. You'll be part of a publishing company. The logo is usually on the back, a barcode. You get your ISBN number. And then it's off to the gallery with you, or the bookshelf, as we say. And before we go into whatever questions I think you need to ask yourself in terms of how do I want to publish this? Do I want to publish it myself? Do I want to go to a traditional publisher? What do I need to do in order to be able to get to a traditional publisher? And what exactly do you do, Teresa? What is a hybrid publisher? And I'm going to tell you all of that as soon as we come back from our next break. So stay with me and let's get some frequently asked questions answered for you so you can know that there is a way for you to get your story, your book out into the world. We'll be right back.
Personal story to share? The Daily Gift Book series began with a daily gift of gratitude and a daily gift of hope, both available on Amazon. We're looking for people like you to share a story in our continuing series. Kindness, peace, inspiration, and generosity are just a few of the upcoming topics in the Daily Gift Book series. Your stories matter, and they make a difference. Visit www.dailygiftbookseries.com to find out more on how to submit your story for one of the upcoming titles.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you practice gratitude? How can you make it a habit? Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's expanding your perception and finding gratitude for every opportunity and every challenge. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for while making a difference. A grateful heart is infectious. Share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community and watch your blessings blossom.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. For those of you who are listening and thinking, oh my goodness, it sounds like so much Teresa. What can I do? How can I get involved without having to dive in head first into this process? Well, the series that you just heard about and that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the Daily Gift Book series, Gratitude, Kindness, and Hope. These books are all on Amazon already, and we're working on a daily gift of peace. If you have a story about peace, it's only 250 to 275 words to put together to be part of a book, and each one of these books has become a bestseller on Amazon. So by writing a short story where you also get the opportunity to put a bio in there, and so people can get to know you and maybe create a following for yourself and be among other authors who are talking about the same topic, maybe that's the way for you to start. And if you think that might be, just go to dailygiftbookseries.com and read about how you can be part of the next one, which I said is a daily gift of peace. So let's do some comparison and answer some questions, frequently asked questions. What is a traditional company? What's a hybrid company? And what does it mean to do self-publishing? Well, self-publishing, you do everything that we just talked about by yourself, or you can create your own team of people, maybe find an editor somewhere, and maybe they'll help you find an illustrator or someone to help you create a book cover, learn the ins and outs of Amazon and their publishing arm, KDP, and figure out how to get your book up there. And with the changing world of Amazon, learn mostly through trial and error on how to get your book up on Amazon. And then what? You get it up there. Maybe you have a marketing plan, but you have to do all of this on your own. A traditional publisher, a lot of them, they require you to have, I think every one of them today requires you to have an agent, requires you to have a book proposal, requires you to send in samples and your manuscript, and Not that you don't have to submit your manuscript to me, but you do. But one of the things that is traditional publishers, a lot of people say, well, maybe I'll get an advance on my book, and maybe you will. But if you don't sell enough copies to make back the money that they gave you, many of these companies, they want that advance back. So unless you have a massive platform, massive, where you can sell books, you're well known, you have marketing people, you get out into the world. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do this with your own book. Whether you're self-published, whether you are published with a hybrid company like Authentic Endeavors, or whether you're published traditionally, getting out into the world and sharing it with everybody is the goal. So that's how you sell books. You get in front of the camera on local radio shows, TV shows, and you talk about what you've written and how people will enjoy whatever it is that you've written. The other thing that, as far as a traditional publisher, besides the fact that you need a large platform, the agent costs money. Writing a book proposal, before you even show them what you've written, you have to write a proposal. When you're self-publishing, you don't have to do that. When you're publishing with a hybrid company, I am not going to ask you to send me a book proposal, and I'm not going to ask you to get an agent. You're going to submit your manuscript, and there's a way for you to do that on AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com. You can submit your manuscript. There's several different imprints, which we'll talk about in a second, and we'll review it and let you know where it fits in the imprints, if it fits or if it's not something that we can do for you. And then the other thing is, what about royalties? Everybody thinks they're going to make $1 million because they had a book published by a traditional publisher. They take a good portion of the royalties, and you get only a small portion per book. They're covering their costs and whatever, and doing more than that. They're taking a good portion of the proceeds as part of the contract. And now every contract is different. Your agent, if you have an agent, they can negotiate that for you. With self-publishing, of course, you do it yourself. Everything that comes back to you belongs to you. Hybrid publishing, I'm the one in the middle. I'm not, excuse me, Authentic Endeavors is a hybrid publishing company. We do what you either can't do or don't want to do. And we have a team of people who do all the different steps. Editors, we have formatters, we have illustrators, we have me, who I do most of the project management and make the decisions with you on how you want your book to be from the get-go to the end product. And the royalties all belong to you. You pay for the service. You keep all the royalties. Okay, what are the different imprints? Excuse me, and what does that mean? Imprints are something that categorize books. Excuse me. This talking by yourself for an hour causes some dry spells. Okay, so Authentic Endeavors Publishing is the main company. Inside the main company, we have Book Endeavors, which is children's books. We have Wellness Book Endeavors, which of course is wellness books. And actually this is Unsheltered is actually published under wellness books, because wellness for individuals, wellness for society, wellness for the country, whatever. Excuse me. And then we have Kingdom Books. Kingdom Books are Christian books. The journal that I showed you before with the pottery on the front, I published that under the Kingdom Books because there's a lot of scripture and a lot of Christian concepts in there. Spirit Book Endeavors is where I publish the Daily Gift Book series. A lot of those stories come with a spiritual flavor to them, but they're not necessarily Christian, and some of them don't have the the spiritual thing with it. So they go under Spirit Book Endeavors, and the Daily Gift Book Series actually stands on its own under dailygiftbookseries.com. And then we have Kingdom Kids, people that have written, there are a few people who have written books, children's books that are Christian based. So we have that available as well. So how does all this information help you to get started as an author, as a writer, as a, whether it's part of a compilation book? If you submit a story to a compilation book that gets published, you are an author in a compilation book. And if it goes to bestseller, you are an author in a best-selling compilation book. So there's a lot of ways to go from not writing anything to writing your own book. All the steps along the way that I've shared with you can be helpful to you. If you have questions that you want to ask, if you want to become part of one of these compilation books just to dip your toe into whether or not you want to be writing, you can just go to dailygiftbookseries.com and learn a little bit about that. And then on Authentic Endeavors, there is a submission form there. And if you just want to ask a question, you can use that as well to ask questions about whether or not you have something that can be published by our company. The other thing is that we also periodically have ways for you to participate in other people's compilation books. For example, the Unsheltered book is a compilation. There is a series of books called All Things Wellness. Now, this is a journal that came out from All Things Wellness, but there's a series of books called All Things Wellness, and those stories are longer. They're a chapter in the book, and people put their chapters together to speak about, in this case, all things wellness, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational. All those different topics are covered in those books. And we have people who are putting things together that we have a call out to authors who have been in other books and they want to potentially be in somebody else's book as well, created their own book, been part of one of the Daily Gift Book series. And every person's contract is different. And that's the other thing I want to say. There is no, it's going to cost me $5,000. It's going to cost me $10,000. No. What I do, I don't want you to pay for anything that you don't need. If you have your own illustrator, you don't have to pay for illustrations. If you have your cover designed, you don't have to pay for a cover. So what I do is when you decide that you want to write a book or be part of a book, we set up a consultation. And in that consultation, we determine together what it is that you need and how it is that I can help you to get published in this world of words, if you will. And by the way, my introduction says I'm a word nerd. Here's the reason why I'm a word nerd, because I'm all about the words. I'm all about the books. And so we can help you get everything together for you. During the consultation, we'll determine exactly what you need and exactly what it is that we can do for you and have your book come to life. If you need an editor, we have editors available. If you are looking to just be part of a small book or, set something out into the world that has a message. I had somebody recently send me what they call the tract. It's one of those little booklets that you see. A lot of organizations will hand out booklets right and left, but it has a really good message for women in it. And so she wanted to get it out there in a way that was going to be easy for somebody to put into their pocket or into their purse. And we took care of that for her. So regardless of what your message is, whether it's 250 words or 250,000 words, that's a lot of words, by the way, we can help you get yourself published, get you published through the hybrid company, and get you out into the world. We do have some people who do some marketing. I have lots of suggestions on how to get your book out there. One of the things with the children's books, schools love to have you come and read to the kids. And it's a great way to sell your books too. I remember when my son was very young, getting a notification when he was in preschool that the author of, and many of you have read this book, it's called Where the Wild Things Are. And the author was coming to the school to read the book to the children and would have books available for them if they wanted to buy them. And a note went home to all the kids in the class. If you would like one, the author said he will sign the book to your child and or other children, if you have nieces and nephews or whatever. And it was a great way for kids to meet the author of the book. By the way, celebrity is a status that comes to you automatically when you become an author. Don't ask me why. I call it the AAA club. There's 3 ways mostly in this country that you get to be recognized more than the quote unquote average person. Not that anybody is average. I never treat anybody like they're average. You are gold when you are having conversations with me. And every single one of you listening is gold to me because you make a difference in my life, just the way that I pray that my show makes a difference in yours. So, excuse me. And then I lost my train of thought. That was good. But anyway, authors are, I know what I was saying. 3 ways for celebrity. And if you know what they are actors, athletes, and authors. The first time I signed a book for somebody, you would have thought I gave them gold. When I wrote their name and I sent wrote a personal message, and then signed my name to it. I'm so sorry. So if you're looking for some sort of celebrity in the process, becoming an author, even in a small way, can do that for you. And you'd be shocked at who recognized you. I just got a letter from somebody that says that I'm making a huge difference, and I'll share that at another time. And there's good stuff coming. All along the way, you're going to find that good things happen. People will relate to you. Your message has meaning. Your story is important. So if you have one to tell, here's your invitation. Go to AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com. Send me a note. Submit your story. Or go to DailyGiftBookSeries.com and learn more about how you can be part of one of the compilation books that we're putting out next. And our time is up for the day. I can't believe we filled that entire time with stories about how to get your book published using pottery as an illustration. I hope it was helpful to you. Feel free to, when you have a moment, if you want to review this on YouTube and leave me a message in the comments. And if you need me to reach out to you, you can email me at teresavelardi@gmail.com, or do one of the 2 things that I suggested. Go to AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com or DailyGiftBookSeries.com. I hope this was helpful to you and that meaningful in some way. And I hope that all the conversations that you have between now and the next time we get together are making a difference in the lives of someone else. And with that, I will say thank you for listening to Conversations That Make a Difference, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.